The sea stretched infinitely in every direction, a dark, impenetrable blanket broken only by the sliver of the ship's wake. The cargo vessel hummed steadily, its engines thrumming beneath the deck like a distant heartbeat. It was another long haul across the Pacific, where the endless blue of the ocean and the blinding glare of the sun became a monotonous, oppressive rhythm. At night, the sky was an unbroken canvas of stars, the only interruptions the occasional flash of light from the deck and the steady churn of the water. It was peaceful in a way, but peace that held no comfort, peace that could just as easily slide into stagnation. It was on the late watch, somewhere 10 days out from port, that it appeared. At first, it was a mere ripple in the water, nothing more than a shift, a quiet disturbance that didn't quite belong. But then, as the ship's deck lights briefly illuminated the dark waters, there was a plume of mist rising from the depths. A deep, rhythmic breath. And that was when the size of it became apparent. Too large to be dolphins, too deliberate to be a random wave. A whale. Not just any whale, a creature of massive proportions, a shadow swimming alongside them. It was close now, too close for comfort, and something about the way it moved, as if it was aware, sent a chill down the sailor's spine. By the time morning arrived, the whale was still there. It had kept pace with the ship throughout the night, following them, shadowing their slow path across the water. It wasn't uncommon for whales to be spotted during long voyages, but something about this one was different. The scars on its back were unlike anything the crew had seen before, jagged, deep cuts and circular gashes that told a story of immense trauma. The bosun, his face weathered and aged by years at sea, squinted through binoculars and grunted, "Humpback, by the looks of it. Big fella. Lost his pod, maybe." But the scars, they were not from nature. No, they were something else, something that spoke of battles beyond what any whale should have endured. And it wasn't just swimming in the same direction as the ship, it was following them, closely, deliberately. The monotony of the ship's journey was beginning to crack, not from the presence of the whale but from a sudden, subtle disturbance in the rhythm of the engines. The hum beneath the deck, the constant vibration that had kept time with their passage, grew erratic. The chief engineer spent hours in the engine room trying to isolate the issue. The verdict: a slight problem with one of the propeller shafts. Minor, nothing to be overly concerned about, but the ship would be running at reduced speed for a while. In the meantime, the whale stayed close, its massive form gliding silently through the water, always parallel, never straying. By dusk, the whale's behavior had shifted. The ship's reduced speed, a sign of vulnerability in the vast ocean, seemed to embolden the creature. Suddenly, with alarming speed, the whale surged forward, diving beneath the water before resurfacing right beside the hull. The force of its impact was like a cannon shot, a deep, resonating thump that made the entire ship groan under the pressure. The crew was thrown into chaos, shouting, stumbling to regain their balance as the ship quaked beneath them. The whale had rammed them, not just nudged them, but attacked. The ship with deliberate force. Its size was so immense that the vessel shuddered with every hit. The ship was steel, strong, but in this vast, empty ocean it felt fragile. After the third attack, the whale seemed to vanish beneath the waves, disappearing into the dark ocean as if it had never been there. The crew, now shaken but thinking the threat was over, began to assess the damage. There were no immediate breaches, no gaping holes, just some scraped paint and a few dented plates above the waterline. A lucky escape, or so they thought. But as the night wore on, the whale returned. This time its movements were slower, almost mournful. It bumped against the hull repeatedly, gentle but persistent, as if seeking some kind of connection, some kind of help. Its massive body slid quietly through the water, and there was no more violence, just the rhythmic thumping of its side against the ship. The whale's behavior had become a strange, almost ritualistic occurrence during the night watches. Always when the crew was few, when the deck was quiet, it would swim up to the side of the ship, let out that eerie moan, and bump the hull in a slow, rhythmic pattern. It was as if it was trying to tell them something. But the question remained. What? Why had it singled out the ship? It was a mystery that felt more sinister by the hour. And then, as the ship continued its slow crawl across the water, the whale reacted with an almost frantic energy. It arched its back, its tail rising high before it slammed down against the water with such force that the sound cracked through the still air like a gunshot. That's when the sailor saw it. From the far distance, something else appeared in the water. Something darker, a shadow approaching with terrifying speed. At first, it was only a dark shape in the distance, but as it neared, the creature's form became clearer. It wasn't a ship, nor a whale. Its back was long, dark, and covered in strange ridges, and what looked like enormous leathery wings stretched from either side of its spine. They weren't flapping like a bird's wings. No, they were held in place, sleek and powerful, like sails. This creature was slicing through the water with a speed that made the ship look like it was standing still. And then it did something even more unsettling. It dove beneath the surface without a sound, disappearing into the depths like a phantom. The whale reacted with terror, its last desperate slap of its tail signaling its retreat. The sailor's blood ran cold as he realized the whale wasn't attacking them. It was running from this. The water, where the creature had vanished, began to change color. At first, it was subtle, a faint discoloration, but within moments it turned a deep crimson, spreading across the ocean like a wound. The whale, the one that had tried to warn them, had been the target, and now the thing that had caused its scars, its terror, had come for it. The blood slicked the ocean as the creature reappeared, rising from the depths with a horrifying slowness. First came its back, then its wings, and finally its head. But it wasn't a head at all. It was a mouth. A vast, circular abyss of teeth, rows upon rows of jagged ivory daggers, some as long as the sailor's arm. It opened wide, and for a brief, terrifying moment, the sailor knew that whatever this thing was, it had no equal. The creature's gaze, if it could be called that, fixed upon the sailor for a long, agonizing moment. There were no eyes, no expression, just a focus that chilled him to his very core. The captain ordered full power, the engines roaring to life with newfound vigor, and the ship surged forward, faster than it had moved in days. The crew remained silent, their eyes fixed on the bloody patch of water in the distance, the last remnants of the whale's sacrifice. And as they sped away, the sailor knew that whatever this thing was, it would not forget. Neither would he. The sea had taken a part of him that he couldn't explain, couldn't put to rest. And with every passing wave, he knew, in the deepest parts of his soul, that he could never go back.